Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Michelle, and I'm here with my colleague Erin from your Northwestern Alumni Association. We will begin shortly, and we're so pleased that Özge Samanci could join us for this great topic. But first, a few housekeeping items. If you have any questions now or during the presentation that you would like to ask Özge, please feel free to use the Ask Your Question box on the left-hand side of your webinar dashboard. Just type in your question and hit send. We will keep an eye on those questions and ask a few of them at the end of the presentation. You will also find some great resources included in the top tabs of the webinar platform. Please feel free to view this information at your leisure. Should you have any technical issues during the webinar, please refer to the Technical Issues tab to see if your question is listed there. Most issues can be solved by just refreshing your browser. Lastly, a link to the recording of this webinar and a survey will be sent to all registrants after this talk. Now I'll introduce Özge. Özge Samanci is a media artist and graphic novelist and an associate professor at Northwestern University's School of Communication. Her interactive installations have been exhibited internationally at venues such as File Festival, Currents New Media, the Tech Museum of Innovation, and Athens International Festival of Digital Arts and New Media. Her graphic memoir, Dare to Disappoint, has been translated into 6 languages. Her second graphic novel, Evil I See, was named one of The Guardian's best graphic novels of 2024. Her drawings have appeared in The New Yorker, The Wall Street Journal, and Slate magazine. Now I'm going to hand it over to Özge. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for choosing to be here today instead of enjoying a summer walk, whether it's noon or evening, wherever you are. And thanks to Alumni Association for having me today to share my work and insights with you. My background spans both science and art, and that blend will make sense once you see the scope of work. We'll begin with comics and move into interactive art. Both are plastic medium, which means they are independent from the limitations of the world we live in. So they are like dreams, anything is possible, and they are exploratory mediums that embrace unexpected materials and ideas. So today in my talk, we are going to dive into oceans, travel through space, and I promise I'll bring you back to the terra, to the land. I will start with the comics that I make for the New Yorker to set a casual tone, to let you know you can ask me anything at the end of the talk. And here the magician says, why do I always overcommit? And this one, eating in front of the computer is bad for you. If you're having your lunch, this comes for you. I did this one during pandemic. And my first graphic novel was Dare to Disappoint, that came out in 2015. And it's a memoir. It tells my growing up story in Turkey, my upbringing and navigating parental expectations, social pressures, what your teachers want, what your society want, economic instability, and then it was a militaristic culture. And amid those constraints, like many people, I was struggling to figure out my path in life, what I wanted to do with my precious life. And that's kind of a universal struggle, and that resonated with many countries. So the book got translated to 6 languages. But I want to talk more about my recent graphic novel, Evil I See. And Evil I See came out in 2024, and it is connected to our theme of oceans and environment because it's centered around the ocean. That's the reason I want a little bit of weight on it. So let's watch a short book trailer, animated book trailer, 2-3 minutes. And there we go. I think there was a little bit of lag while showing the video. I may change how I am showing the things. It's actually a smooth video, but I think it came you like in still images. So Evil I See is a personal and political narrative set in Istanbul, a city I left 21 years ago. And Istanbul like spans into two continents, half on Asia, half on Europe. And every part of the city has been told in the movies and in the novels, in artworks. But there is one part that is a bit untouched. That's the part connecting the continents. So that was my key element in my world building. This murder mystery is semi-autobiographical, minus the murder part, hopefully. So I spent 6 years in government-funded dorms where 8 women were crammed into 250 square foot room filled with military-style furniture. So absurd anecdotes that I collected from those years served as a microcosm of Turkish politics. And story unfolds during a significant election season. A conservative party is gaining momentum, and the plot is intricate. So I rely on other sources for a concise description. And New York Times put it well. They said 2 college students witness a death during a diving expedition, and then they become entangled with a nationalist politician who may be involved. So the center of the book, there is the ocean, and in art and literature, oceans and water often symbolize various concepts. And some of these concepts may resonate with you well too. And to me, I see my characters as extension of water, and the depths represent the troubles they face, depths they are diving into. And while water offers them a sense of weightlessness and freedom, it also offers them frees them from the pressures of patriarchy and authoritarian state, economic strife, and challenges of youth as well. Beneath the surface lies secrets, and like their young minds, water is unpredictable, with currents mirroring sudden thoughts and life's flow. And trauma can taint the human psyche. And Comics Journal said book is not a sudden explosion, but a quiet storm. And that's our transition to the stormy topic of today, the climate change, and how we handle that with arts and particularly interactive arts. With handling, I mean, it's such a big problem. I cannot offer quick solutions for it, but with our art, we try to understand it and feel it. I'm trying to create a sense of feeling with the interactive work. So the piece I'm going to talk about is fiber optic ocean, and I'm going to try to share my screen in a different way. I'm afraid it is lagging on your end. Just a second. I am going to maybe use a slideshow. Nope. Just a second. And perhaps this will be better. And so for fiber optic oceans, I used fiber optic cables, and we constructed sculptures from replication of the shark bones. And again, let's watch a demo video about the piece, which will explain it to you, then I'll talk. Fiber Optic Ocean is a data-driven, interactive installation that composes music. This installation creates unique musical scores dependent on live data. Fiber Optic Ocean conveys the consequences of technology's invasion of oceans. I am Özge Samanci, the artist who designed Fiber Optic Ocean. There are underwater fiber optic cables crossing the oceans and connecting the continents. Sharks are drawn to these cables and are biting on them. One theory is that the magnetic field around a fiber optic cable is stimulating the receptors in sharks' mouths and luring them to perceive the cables as prey. Somewhat, our fiber optic cables are deeply confusing the sharks. I took this situation as a metaphor for human beings' mindless invasion of nature. While we are trying to connect with other human beings with our fiber optic cables, as usual, we are disconnecting from nature. Three life-size shark skeletons are trapped in an ocean made of fiber optic threads. The group of fiber optic threads going through the sharks blink at a rate based on the speed of live sharks tracked with GPS data. The fiber optic threads composing this ocean blink based on the speed of the internet. We symbolize this with the number of tweets per second. The piece procedurally composes music made with trombone and choral voices generated by live data coming from the movement of live sharks and human use of the internet. We 3D scanned shark bone pieces at the Field Museum, 3D modeled and modified them to give their distorted posture. We 3D printed one shark, and then I made silicone molds and resin casts. The fiber optic cables are illuminated by light engines, and the custom written code collects live data and controls the blinking of the lights and the composition of music. The screaming sharks resemble us, individuals trying to survive in the age of corporations. And so that piece perhaps illustrates what I was talking about, thinking in plastic way and using unexpected materials. So for a media artist, anything on the world can be an art material. And with this slide, my thinking as a comics and graphic novels artist and interactive arts person, like here, this was the first conceptualization of the piece, and that plasticity from drawing medium comes into my designs in the interactive art. And one thing I didn't know when I conceptualized this piece, that shark bones are made of cartilage and they won't last. So like I thought we could collect the bones and create a shark skeleton, but unfortunately only their jaws remain, the rest gets dismantled. So we went to Field Museum and we 3D scanned the shriveled up shark bones that they pulled for us from their drawers. And based on those collections, we did 3D prints, and we also did mold making and resin casts, and we created our shark bones that way. And so this piece helps us to slow down and think for a second. This internet we are using right now to communicate this talk and for anything else, it is at a cost for other beings. We are invading their space while we are making our own lives comfortable. And the next piece, You Are the Ocean, is perhaps the piece that encapsulates the theme and meaning of today's talk the most. In this piece, we use the brainwave sensor, very easy to put on, and we projected a realistic looking ocean, and the participants' thinking affects the calmness or the storminess of the ocean. And the piece is called You Are the Ocean, and this slide again summarizes today's thinking. So we human beings tend to see the nature as a resource for ourselves, like the ocean is a resource, animals are resource, plants are for us. And in that way of thinking, we place humans above all other ecosystems. And Donna Haraway suggests a different way of thinking, and she says perhaps like we can think and design and exist, not giving humans the superiority and caring about all ecosystems in an entangled way. Thinking from that, I came up with the You Are the Ocean, that the participant would think themselves as an extension of the ocean. And to create that bond that is kind of becomes invisible in our fast-paced life, I created this piece, and let's see again a demo video. And You Are the Ocean, perhaps the like because of it's easy to understand, and it creates two different kind of experiences. One for the person who is putting the headset on, and it also creates a experience for people who are watching the experience, because there's something captivating about the view of an ocean, that the visitors tend to form long lines when they are looking at this piece. When we showed it, it has been a crowd pleaser, but that like people who are not interacting or waiting for their turn, they tend to have conversations among themselves, and they talk about their bond to the ocean. like people from all ages has been trying this piece, and Northwestern's dance students made a ocean theme dance performance, and their lead dancer wore the headset, so we were able to see reflection of her thoughts during this dance. And to this day, it continues to travel. This is from Ibrida Festival in Italy, and it will be shown in the Science Gallery in Monterrey, Mexico this October. In some ways, this piece served what I wanted to do, that feeling that connection, but unfortunately it served the opposite way too. Sometimes people think it as themselves as godly being trying to control the ocean. That was complete opposite of what I wanted to create. But while we are experimenting, we can go both ends with the things we create. And Vastways is more recent piece, and in Vastways, I realize I have been working with the ocean until this point. Those are vast spaces that we think we wouldn't be able to pollute, but we did. And space is outer space is another place that is so vast, and we think we can pollute that too, except we forget to think about gravity. Because of gravity, we are polluting space too. And let's look at the piece about connecting the space pollution and ocean pollution and exploring the relationships between those. We have a pattern of making the same mistake.
Vastways is a data-driven projection art installation that illuminates the parallels and interplay between marine pollution and space debris. It can also be experienced in virtual reality. Human activities have scattered millions of objects into Earth's orbit. Since there is no friction, debris travel at 18,000 miles per hour. Even tiny paint flecks can create explosive crashes. If the amount of space debris passes a critical mass, each collision will lead to more collisions in a chain reaction known as the Kessler effect. Vastways generates an ever-changing Kessler effect in conjunction with a data-driven soundtrack. In this installation, satellites spin based on the speed of marine debris. This is calculated by using ocean currents and ocean winds. The number of fragments falling into the ocean is tied to human use of satellites, symbolized by number of tweets per second. Generative music varies in each play based on collisions, number of fragments, their contact with the surface of the ocean, and their descent into the ocean.
For this piece, like we use VR and a Unity game design engine, and then we have a data-driven software, that custom-written software, and we also design it as a large-scale projection art piece. And the sound, of course, changes in each play, and the piece looks at two vast worlds, ocean and space. Our data sources are coming from National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's center. And one thing I did is, in order to talk about the entanglement between these two vast spaces, for the data coming from the ocean world, animates the events happening in the space scene, and the data coming from the space scene animates the events in the ocean scene. And we use a large static database, a huge Excel chart to create the variety in each play. As well, we are using some live data, and the music, as the video explained, changes based on various paradigms. Again, perhaps like this is the most important slide, and these numbers might have increased since I prepared slides. The number of operational satellites, say 10,000, around that number. And right now with space debris, we are in such a place that they have to maneuver the satellites by tracking all the debris out there, constantly tracking it. It's that crowded, it's that polluted right now. And this is the situation when we have 10,000 operational satellites, but the Elon Musk's Starlink project plans to place 42,000 more satellites into our orbit in the next 10 years. And it's the same satellite replicated over and over again. If there's a design flaw, that's going to be 42,000 times of the mistake. When we design these systems, we design just put the satellite there, but we don't design what to do once they are dead. And again, my previous pieces, this was created in collaboration with our students and faculty. And this piece continues to travel worldwide in media arts festivals and museums. The last two pieces that I'm going to talk about is slightly different. So transforming water and air doesn't have traditional computational game design VR kind of things. It's a collaboration between me and Lindsay Seitz. She just received her tenure, I believe, now associate professor of chemical and biological engineering. And we collaborated, and Lindsay explained me how they split water into hydrogen and oxygen to make hydrogen peroxide. I was able to follow this thanks to my mathematics background. And hydrogen peroxide is used in bleaching fabric and paper, wastewater treatment, mining, chemical synthesis. So it's an industrial product, and when it's produced in high quantities for the industrial reasons, it's energy intensive. Most importantly, it creates insane amount of toxic waste, requires large facilities, and transporting these chemicals is a safety concern. And in Lindsay's lab, they create hydrogen peroxide using water, air, electricity, creating zero waste. This is called green chemistry. It's possible, we have the technology, but mysteriously we are not using it. We are using our old systems. So Lindsay and I wanted to bring sciences and arts together, and we looked at climate change denial arguments. They are grouped in 5 in general, and we chose the most outstanding ones for us. And like human impact is small, don't risk our economic feature. And then I made designs using metal plates and using these climate denial statements, and we created posters from these climate denial statements. Then we took these posters and using the hydrogen peroxide created with the green chemistry with zero waste, we bleached these posters. And we took these bleached pages and we put our own designs on top of these pages. Green chemistry is possible. So we created a series of posters using this technique. And I used wood slices while making this piece, how I resourced it by just using a fallen tree, just a little trivia here. I never thought I would use a rolling pin at Northwestern's chemistry lab. And with our students, we created a documentary video about this process-oriented piece, and including our undergraduate and graduate students. Let's see a short trailer of this longer documentary. And I will talk about one last piece, which is in making right now this summer. And I use emerging technologies for making art. And of course, artificial intelligence is so dominating our conversations right now. And the piece I make is about the environmental impact of AI. As you know, to run AI systems, we need a lot of clean water and so much energy, so that we need to build more nuclear plants, and all of it is putting our already endangered planet in more danger. So in this piece, we are creating also this piece with the support coming from different parts of Northwestern, like the previous piece. Buffett Institute, the Office of Provost, and Northwestern Alumni Association. And in this piece, you can have a conversation with the piece, and the answers of ChatGPT comes from the sky as three-dimensional words, and they come onto Earth, and they open holes on the ground, and they break trees, and create harm. So the pieces in making, the boxes are representing the text. We will not use pixel art, but we were trying different kind of aesthetics. We will go with more realistic aesthetic. Again, the stone is just replicating the text that is coming from our conversation, verbal conversation with ChatGPT. So we are in the process of putting the pieces that we are creating. We experimented with more poetic, surreal look, but then we realized that kind of aesthetic reduces the impact. Like this seems like a magical land that being destroyed, and we may not care enough about it. So we wanted to use more realistic representation. For now, the aesthetic we are following is a realistic forest, and there are two-dimensional creatures escaping, migrating, or dying in that environment. That's a dummy animation. So here I can end this talk with this series of art pieces that you looked at. Perhaps it may give you some ideas about how we can go boundless with the material and thinking and approach the climate change in some novel ways that breaks the immunity that we developed so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Özge, for your enlightening presentation. I really enjoyed learning where science meets art. We're going to move on to some questions. Please feel free to post your questions in the chat. Our first question is, can you share what initially drew you to the intersection of interactive art and environmental issues? Was there a specific moment or experience that sparked this direction in your work?
There is not a specific moment. I believe my entry would be designing You Are the Ocean. And there I noticed that the ocean was a recurring theme for me because I grew up next to Aegean Sea, and like everybody feels that subliminal feeling at the not subliminal, sublime feeling at somewhere else, like that we are small, powerless creatures and there's something much larger than us. Some people feel it at church, some people mosque, some people at temple, some forest. For me, it was oceans. And that kind of bond was the thing I wanted to talk about. That strong bond that I'm just extension of those larger entities feeling. So in each piece, I'm approaching that idea from a different angle.
Fascinating. Thank you for sharing. Our next question is, what do you hope participants take away after engaging with your art?
That's a good question, yeah. The problem right now is like this environmental crisis, ecological crisis. We're talking about it, but with the same terms. So, and the life is full of other challenges. And then we block it. Like we say, I'm too small. What can I do? I can't make a change. It is what it is. And we stop hearing it. So I'm trying to break that immunity and find a crack and make people feel in that moment. But interactive art is a niche subject, like it reaches a very small group of people, but as well an academic article too. So we are a drop in the ocean. We have the luxury of thinking boundlessly and not thinking like, how can I make profit out of this, or how this could be directly useful to people. I'm chasing knowledge in academia, and I'm chasing metaphors and different meaning-making possibilities in my art. So it's a very open-ended answer I gave you, But short answer is making people feel and care.
Of course, wonderful. Thank you for sharing. We have a question submitted by an audience member. They say, I wonder how the process of remembering and producing comes to life for you while being physically distant from Turkey, yet clearly still deeply connected to it. Do you feel that your memories, particularly as they appear in your comic books, transform with time and distance? How does this affect the way you choose to represent the past or even the present in your visual storytelling?
Wow. So if help me to understand the question. It's a long question and beautifully written. Is it about how do I make sure the stories that I tell are not reshaped by the process of remembering? Is it the question? Did I
I think so. And like how does time and distance transform your work?
like the if it's a memoir, then like I have heard that stories from multiple people, so the overlap of the same story and the facts are repeating makes it real. But in when things come from our memory, of course, like the way that we felt, it's my point of view of seeing the thing. So it's not a scientific uh, account of what happened there. There is going to be the human element into it for the first book. And the space and time, how does it come in? I think I'm playing with the idea of escapism right now as a concept, and nostalgia is a form of escapism that we kind of, it's a safe place that we can replay the memories in our head, and and because it's in the past, anxiety is removed from them. Like whatever happened is already happened, so I can think about those things without having the anxiety I felt in the moment, right? So that in a way, remembering those things, the meaning of them is an escapist act for me. That's how it comes to my thinking. There could be a million different answers to that beautiful question. Yeah, that's what I can think right now.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Our next question is, have you seen generational differences in how audiences engage with your work?
Yes. The like let's talk about You Are the Ocean, for example. That's the perhaps the most traveled one, interactive art wise. Of course, like children are or younger people are way more animated around the piece. Like I have seen a baby engage with it, and I have seen toddlers engage with it. In Italy, last time we put the headset on to a 3-year-old, he wanted to try it so much, and he sat still for 3-4 minutes, and he understood the piece. That is like so valuable to me to like reach out every age group, and sometimes like children gets really excited and animated when the ocean goes into a storm. They start screaming and running around. Of course, like adults are much more calmer in their reactions. In the graphic novel side of the things, my first book was marketed as 14 and up. But the interesting part of it, I didn't engage too much of the young audience. It mainly went through the adult readers, and it kind of worked for many people who are going through the similar trouble of like figuring out what do we do with our own life when you are young. But it also addressed the parents who are having children who are trying to decide. And I didn't calculate these things. I just wanted to tell my story, but that story hits so many different groups for different reasons. And it also hit a very interesting group, which is still amazing me. There are so many couples, like an American person married to Turkish person and European person married to Turkish person. So their children are born in these developed countries, and they have no idea like what one of their parents went through in the Turkish education system. So these couples use the book as, see, this is what I want to read this and see kind of thing. So it kind of worked as closing that cultural gap between the child and parent, or two sides of the relationship. And For Evil I See, the graphic novel, that's designed for adults, and in general it remained in that circle of people who are interested in politics, Middle East, and murder mysteries. That kind of group was interested.
Fascinating. We love to hear how different audiences engage with your work. Our next question is, what has been some of the most surprising reactions from people who've engaged with your work? Has audience feedback ever changed how you view a piece?
Audience feedback, I'm sure I take that into consideration. Like it's important what other people think, because but before releasing the work to the world, like while you are in the making of it, sometimes it's so in your head, you think it's right there, and you show it to a friend, partner, colleague, and they look and say, what is this? Like, I don't understand it. And that's perhaps the most important signal. And because also I am a teacher, I see sometimes my students get defensive during critic sessions. That I learn by watching them. If you just stop being defensive, there's so much information there. Just like hear it. You don't have to take it, just hear it. So in terms of like reaction, like You Are the Ocean surprisingly was the easiest piece to make and the most well received one. Most artists in that case would keep doing iterations or variations of the same piece. But I chose not to do that. So in a way, I like exploring something new. That feedback kind of made me do complete opposite of what other people do. I didn't choose a safe path, if it makes sense.
Yes, that makes plenty of sense to me. Our next question is, what challenges have you faced in creating or exhibiting interactive ecological art?
While making and creating it. Like with media arts, there are, the main challenge is I work with emerging technologies, so they constantly change and evolve. So we make the piece, and years go by, platforms change, and it doesn't work on the new platforms, right? Designing those things that it would work all the time is one concern. The second concern is if the piece is so big, transportation of it is to the venues is complicated. So that was like one reason I wanted to deal with more compact pieces, that projection art is easier to transport. And I also work with our students, like the way that I operate. I collect grants from different parts, and then I hire our graduate and undergraduate students. And our students are like super talented and very responsible, super fun to work with, but they are still students and they are learning. So if I would be designing those pieces with an established professional, it would be a quick process, but we move much slower in the case that I create the pieces.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Thank you for sharing. And our next question is, for students or emerging artists interested in using art for ecological advocacy, what advice would you offer to create work that resonates?
Wow, that's the okay, so there are two things when it comes to dealing with this like art making process, whether it is a more understandable analog friendly medium of drawing, animation, maybe filmmaking, or more complex way of doing using code, game engines, VR, more like emerging AI, coming technologies requires more of a teamwork. There are two things. One thing is skill, that can we draw, like which softwares we know, do we have the smooth line, or like how is our use of camera, can we write good code? Those are skills. And on the other side, the other part is the artistic vision, that what are we going to make? Like, what's the meaning you are releasing the work? What is hurting your heart? What's your problem? And so what I see when I work with the students, they are so focused on the skill part, and they sometimes forget the importance of the artistic vision aspect. So these two components work hand in hand. Like when you are developing the skill, if you're not reading about philosophy, if you're not reading about just the news, if you're not reading about um, the environmental issues coming along, the current politics, its relationship to environment, then what you create is going to be the repetition of what is existing before. So a little bit of like being a polymath and having foot everywhere to see the entanglement of issues. But if like someone is, I'm a more skill-oriented person, I use one thing so well, and I don't have artistic vision, but I want to make pieces, then the best thing for that type of creator is to be in collaboration with a friend, with a colleague who has the vision.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And our last question is, what excites you most about the potential of interactive art to shift how we see and relate to the natural world?
Uh, can you ask me one more time? Yeah.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry, I just X'd out of the question. What excites you the most about the potential of interactive art to shift how we see and relate to the natural world?
It excites me, but it troubles me at the same time, that the main conflict of making art using emerging technologies by definition is harming environment, like AI itself, like all these screens, internet, everything comes to a cost to the environment. And most art forms have an environmental cost. Like even in painting, you work with chemical dyes, and perhaps like maybe music, singing, and dancing are the most cleanest art forms. Other than that, like as the medium you use gets more complex, your harm on environment increases. So that part troubles me while I'm working with this medium. What excites me is working with emerging technologies, that what we offer people is experiences, and those experiences could be kind of sort of magical moments, poetic moments, whimsical moments that suddenly jolt people from the routine of the life and thinking, and give that spark of feeling and thinking again. So that's the power of emerging technologies. And the other fun part of it is it's collective human creation, the emerging technologies, and to understand that and to be able to work with that makes me feel like I am kind of part of that change and part of that conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And we have just one more question from our audience. They say, you previously noted that ecological and interactive art often remains confined to niche audiences. However, environmental rights, considered part of the so-called fourth generation of human rights, are widely embraced by civil society and NGOs. In your work, have you and your team formed any partnerships with NGOs or INGOs or activist networks? If so, how have these collaborations influenced the creation, visibility, or impact of your projects? Could you also share relevant project examples or resources if they exist?
There are like so many, like there is a entire scope of media artwork dealing with the environmental issues, but I have to think and make a list about it. Like there's one group that makes projection art on the smoke that comes out of factory pipes, like the chimneys, like that smoke that comes out of the chimney. At night, they do projections onto those. That's like such a beautiful way of using unexpected materials to make people give that shake to them. But I have to think a list for it. Working with the environmental groups, like I might have made screenings and events at libraries more like community oriented, and gave these type of talks, but unfortunately I haven't had an opportunity to be in a collaboration with such organization. I wish I had that connection. So if the person who is asking me the question have any lead for me, I'd love to hear it, and my email is right there. They can reach out to me.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for extending yourself to the alumni community. And with that, we're going to end the presentation. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us for today, and thank you to Özge for the wonderful presentation. To find out more about alumni events, please check the NAA website at alumni.northwestern.edu. Have a great rest of your day, and go Cats!